In this video, we are going to look at the differences between Sadhguru and Sydney Banks, or the three principles. And I'm recording this video because I recently got a little bit more into Sadhguru's teaching. And whenever I learn something new, especially spiritual teachings, concepts, I'm trying to see how they fit together. And I saw some similarities. I also saw some differences. And I'm also always curious when I find different ways to look at something, if other people have opinions on it or if they see the differences or similarities that I see. So here we go. It's a Saturday morning. I just meditated. I'm not shaved, but I wanted to make this video. So also I need to say, I haven't studied Sadhguru's work in depth. I didn't do his inner engineering course, but I heard him speak for at least a few hours, different videos, podcasts. And let's start with the similarities. Maybe I need to give a quick overview what here on the left side, this is Sydney Banks. He is the person who discovered the three principles of mind, body, and consciousness. Of mind, thought, and consciousness. And this is, I would say, the most pure and simple understanding of how our experience of reality is created. And it resonates a lot with me because it is so pure and it's so simple, very undogmatic, I would say. Whereas Sadhguru, right? Guru is in his name, or his title, his description. And he is a yogi. He teaches a lot of things for the body, for the mind, different things. Beautiful. But so it comes with a lot more stuff. And that might be good. It might not be. I think, he might lose some people who are like, oh, I don't like yoga, for example. They still suffer. They still have a spiritual experience. And so what are the similarities? Both Sydney Banks, and I've read one or two books from Sydney Banks himself, listened to some of his talks, but then also Michael Neal is a really great author and coach who basically transmit the three principles as well. And some other people. Unfortunately, Sydney Banks is not alive anymore. Sadhguru is. That's one difference. But so fundamentally, we are creating our emotions 100% ourselves. This is the same. I've heard Sadhguru said that multiple times, and I fully agree. This is the truth that I find myself as well in my own experience. The difference between the two, but I mean, this is something we could talk about for a long time, because people don't necessarily easily agree to that, because we are living in this illusion. You make me angry, this makes me happy, this makes me afraid. So we always look outwards and we think the environment is responsible for how we feel. But we are always 100% responsible for how we feel. And let's focus on the word here that I used, responsible. It is our own making. And I feel like when Sadhguru talked about it, and I saw him on this talk show or something, I saw him in this longer conversation with Mike Tyson. Well, not really conversation, but he just spoke most of the time. And he's saying that at any moment you are choosing what you feel, basically. And you can always choose something better. And even though I agree that technically we can do that, we could with enough awareness, it's really difficult, right? And it doesn't really quite make sense then why is everyone suffering? Because if we really could choose to be happy, to have a pleasant experience, then certainly we would. So the distinction that I see between the teachings of Sydney Banks and Sadhguru is, yes, our experience comes from the inside, 100% our own making. But what Sydney Banks is saying more, and Michael Neal as well, is when we suffer in all the forms it comes, this is completely innocent, right? We are doing it, but completely innocently. So we don't need to be angry at ourselves for making us afraid, for making us jealous, for making us feel lonely. None of those things, right? So it happens innocently. And now I'm realizing another difference. The three principles, right? They are principles. So everything that he speaks about here is, this is how your experience of reality is created moment by moment. You need three fundamental powers or factors. You need consciousness, the ability to be aware. You need mind, so the intelligence behind everything. And you need thought. This is whatever gets projected onto your consciousness. Right? What happens on the level of thought determines if you're laughing, if you're crying, if you're angry, if you're peaceful. If nothing happens of the level of thought, if you tap into a deep meditative state and it's very quiet in your mind, that also comes with a certain experience, with a certain feeling. But there's no instruction in the three principles themselves. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to do breath work every morning. You don't need to meditate. You don't need to do yoga. None of that. This is not a, it's a description of what is happening. Just like pointing to, hey, can you see how you are creating your own experience? You're not just angry for no reason. You're not just anxious for no reason. There's something happening in your mind, in your thoughts, that creates that experience. Right? Thoughts and emotion come together. And what is happening in our thoughts, we're not aware of most of the time. We can just get aware of how we feel, but also there's a threshold, right? A lot of people don't feel, myself included, I'm often quite in my head, so I don't know exactly what's happening in my body. But if it gets too high, there's a threshold. We notice it. We might still not notice what we are thinking, though. So we notice how we feel. Looking outwards, we're finding the reason for how we feel outside of us. Now, when we see the truth of our experience, then this is three principles again. We have common sense. When we see how we are creating our own suffering, well, we will stop, or we will try to do less of it. Just like when a child for the first time puts their hand on a hot stove, they burn themselves. We don't need to teach them, hey, this is how it works, don't do this again. They know, if I do this, it hurts, right? If we see our own thinking hurting ourselves, then we automatically will try to do less of it. common sense. Why would we hurt ourselves on purpose? No one would do that. So Sadhguru, in comparison, he teaches. He also has sometimes like statements that are just factually wrong, and he says them with a lot of confidence. All people are like this, or certain generalizations, which I think it's unfortunate that he does that. But he's teaching, right? You need to do this, you must do this, and I think it's just the words that he uses. Maybe it's a little bit more triggering potentially for people, because they're like, well, I'm suffering, I'm having a hard time, and you tell me just choose to be happy. But then at the same time, I think sometimes there can be exactly the message that we need, because we get humans, all of us, we get so lost in the stories and this, I need to do this, and then healing, and then look at my trauma, and maybe then at some point I can be some point in the future I can be happy. What if it's simpler? What if it's actually a choice that we have in each moment to look at our state and to realize we have the power to switch. There was one other thing that I wanted to share just now. Oh yeah, Sydney Banks. Well, he's not alive anymore, but he wanted to keep his teachings very pure. That was his wish, and I think some people came to him and thought, oh, but you could do this and you could do all those things. He's like, no, this is what I know. This is at the core of our experience. Everything else, maybe it's more like a distraction or something. I'm not saying he said that exactly. That's my kind of interpretation. But he didn't, times were a little different. He didn't pass away a long time ago, 2009. But he didn't, it is a long time ago when it comes to social media. He never got the audience that Sadhguru has. Here he has 12 million subscribers, which is amazing. And he's doing all the, he's like a influencer. He's going to all the podcasts, he's promoting his program, he's making a bunch of money, which this is great. He's doing amazing things in the world. Sydney Banks is very much like not so known. There's so many people who are into personal development, spiritual development, self-help, psychology, who have never heard his name or the 3 principles. I'm sure there's so much more, and if I would do the inner engineering course, I'm sure I would find other distinctions as well. But I just decided to spontaneously make this video so that the thoughts that I had in my mind over the last few days are captured, and maybe someone else sees this and maybe wants to contribute something, or it's just interesting to hear the observations that I had. All right. Ciao.